Okay, Be'ez Hashem, the very last parak over here, the last parak in Iggeres HaTeshuva B'siyata D'Shmaya is parak base. That's where we are holding. Mamash Erev Yom Tov, Erev Yom Kippurim. We're finishing Iggeres HaTeshuva. We're on the mark to finishing the Gavaldiga, the third sefer of the Heilige Tanya. And the last thing that we mentioned in parak Aleph is that there's a certain Simcha that a person needs to have when he recognizes that there's a kapara savoinus. That means when a person realizes that he's getting a kapara for all of his averas, there's a certain simcha to it, right? We always speak about it all the time on Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is be'etzem a very, very happy day. It's a happy time. Yes, it's serious, because it's a serious time, but it's definitely not a sad time, and that's what he wants to continue over here in Perek Beis. V'tam hasimcha b'yisuri haguf. Not only is there a simcha when a person gets kapara savonos, but what he's been telling us over the last few weeks is when a person gets yisurim, when things happen to him that he doesn't enjoy, doesn't want, doesn't expect, he should be besimcha. Why? Because we mentioned a pasuk continuing from David HaMelech, our averas are in front of us, negdi tomid, they're always in front of us. Why? Because we recognize that when something happens to us that's not gishmak, it's because of our averas. That gives a person simcha. So in other words, it turns your yisurim into simcha. Why? Zug da Heilige Tanya. The tama simcha b'yisur haguf, lefi shi toiva gedola va'atzuma lenefesh hachotes. Lemaisa, at the end of the day, the yisurim, the hardships. How do you translate yisurim? The affliction. Really? Okay, fine. I guess that's a fancy English. Yeah, okay. No better thing than afflictions. The yisurim. Now there's another word. Don't know, whatever. Okay, I don't understand. It's a tremendous tova for the nefesh that did the avera. Lemarka ba'olam hazeh, to cleanse it in this world. Ula hatzila me'muruk begehenim. And what it does is it saves you from the cleansing of Gehenna. Nobody wants the cleansing of Gehenna. You might as well have it in this world, so you're already cleansed already. So Memela, when a person gets a surim, he should be besimcha because he's getting that cleansing over here, down here in this world. The fact that specifically in our generation, these generations, we had this previously. We're not able nowadays to fast. So in the days where they're able to fast, we're able to accomplish tremendous amount with that fasting. Nowadays, the Tanya says, and he brought from many tzaddikim, we don't fast anymore. We're not able to. It doesn't. That's not what the Rebbeinu wants from us. That's not what we need to do as a chelik of tshuva, as we started in Perek Aleph and Iggeres HaTeshuva that way. But he says it's more that case that because we don't fast, we have to be able to do something. So the merit of the yisurim is what it takes over. Ayin shona. Iyov, or as they say in the article, Job, had 70 years of Yisurim. Eilem erech klal Yisur nefesh achas b'gen. 70 years of Yisurim in this world is nothing for 1 hour, shah achas, one time in Gehenna. Can you imagine what that means? 1 moment in Gehenna, 1 shah in Gehenna is nothing compared to 70 years of Yisurim. Ki eish echod mishishem v'chol. The Gemara in Brachos Nun Zayin tells us that the physical fire that we see down over here, which is very hot and very dangerous, is only a 60th of what the real Gehenna is. Of course, it's a metaphor. There's no physical fire in Gehenna, but it's an idea for us to understand it. Since this world was created with chesed, as opposed to the next world, which is built on din, and with very light yisurim in this world, it saves a person from harsh dinim in the next world. Which means that if a person moves a tefach, right, when the sun itself moves thousands of miles, a shade, for example, right, sometimes you see the shade on the floor moves like a tefach. Oh, the shade was right down that spot, it moved to that spot, a tefach away. But in what's going on over there, up in the galaxy, the sun moves thousands and thousands of miles. So a milim, as he says, which is a idea that a small movement in this world down here, affects tremendous movements up there. And that's how it is and Gashmi, that's talking about the dilution of all the worlds as they get closer and closer to the physical world. Everyone knows what the Zohar Kodesh tells us, meaning aliyos, oilamos, or elyonim, be'isarusa, de lesata, be'krovas oif echad ben yona oitar agam mizbeach hakovetz mincha. That means we're all told in the Zohar Kodesh about the tremendous spiritual awakening that happens when a person does a very small spiritual arousing himself down over here. When a person does something over here in this world, when he does a mitzvah, when he brings, he's talking about korbanos, of course, something happens in the next world. What's going on up there is incredible. Every mitzvah that you do, yes, might be a small thing, right? We're all familiar with the famous story of the wife of the Vilna Gaon, right? When someone was on the street and asked her which way do I go to collect or whatever it was, and she pointed with her hand. And she came back to her friend in a dream that she made the deal, and she said, you have no idea the schar that I got. Forget about what I said and how I spoke it, just for be able to point to someone. So therefore he's saying every mitzvah mitzvahs, it might be the smallest thing here, but in Shamayim, like the case of the shade that moves a tap up, and in Shamayim, what's going on the sun is tremendous. That's what's happening. When the Kanoidim Arizal, like that Arizal brings it down, which means that's what the Simcha has and experiences suffering in this world. Maybe that's a better word, suffering, no? Yisurim, certain type of suffering. The person should be besimcha when he suffers in this world. Why? Because he recognizes the small amount of suffering that he experiences in this world, and we all suffer at certain stages on our lives, different things. He should be besimcha because the little bit of suffering that we have is cleansing us not to be suffering up there. When a person is mekadosh himself, he holies himself down over here a little bit, just a small amount. Mekadosh say harbe milamala. Being rise and rise, and what happens when you do a little bit thing over here? What happens up there? Commotion is fire. And that's how it is with schar, which is reward, oynish and punishment. The Mishnah of mitzvah. The schar mitzvah, it's not only a song, but also it's not pshat, you get a mitzvah like as a reward of the mitzvah. The only thing that really can pay for a mitzvah is another mitzvah. It's a ruchnistic tainig, it's a ruchnistic reward. That's another sugya. But that's the novin. But basically what he has ended off telling us such a beautiful yesod to end off this whole period, 12 prokim over here, is that we have to recognize that the small little thing that we do down here, to advance, to get closer to Rabbanu Shalom, can move and shake worlds up into Shemaim. We should be Zocha Be'ez Hashem to do tshuva, be a hava, never experience any yisurim whatsoever, never come to the need for it, Be'ez Hashem, and I give benefit to everybody, of course, as well.